Welcome to our Meet the Trainer for the Wisconsin IIT starting April 26, 2026. I'm so excited. We have certified trainer and assessor Mika Maniwa joining us from all the way from Canada. She'll be flying in for our event in just under 2 months now. As a reminder, these Meet the Trainer events are designed for promotional purposes so that you all can get an idea of what the IIT is like and meet some of the staff and the trainers that will be there. This event is being recorded and it will be used for social media and promotional purposes for this IIT and for other MVC events, and it will be posted publicly. We really appreciate that. Should you decide to contribute your voice and your image, we really appreciate that you do that. The recording will be made available and made public. And welcome everybody. I'm going to just welcome everybody verbally one more time. So Vanessa, Paul, Jay, Jackie, Ka, and Linda, thank you all for joining. I'm going to hand it over to Mika now. And just as a reminder, again, everything is being recorded in the main room. Should we do breakout rooms, those will not be recorded. Thank you everybody for being here. I'm going to hand it over to Mika. Mika, really glad you're here.
Thank you. See, I can introduce myself, and then Vanessa has put some questions in the chat that we can address. So I'm coming as a support trainer to the Wisconsin IIT, and I've done, let's see, what can I say? I'd love to know what you'd like to know about me. I've been doing NVC for over 20 years. My son was 10 when he started to have these power challenges at school. And so I pulled him out of the regular school system, and it was still a public school, but it was a democratic school, and I had to sign a waiver that I was not allowed to force him to take any classes or do anything academically when he went to this democratic school. And that's where I learned about NVC. And I said, why not? I'm a master of violent communication, so I can study nonviolent. And every day that's still a learning practice. And I love going as a support trainer because I love working one-to-one with people. I've studied with Sarah Paytons for many years, and the depth work and bringing empathy to that, a depth of empathy to one-to-one work is exciting for me. And yeah, what is the role of a support trainer? Sometimes support trainers will take on the responsibility of holding a system. So if there's a conflict resolution system, the steward, the contact person could be a support trainer. So if you're like, okay, I've had these several interactions with another participant, and I could really use some help communicating with them, or maybe even just jackling and getting some help, empathy, so I can get to what's important to me before I initiate any kind of contact with this person. And so any step along that way that you could go to a support trainer, like an assistant, with your issue, with your personal growth. And Jennifer Warnick, she's a colleague of mine in TCCP, and Kathleen McFerrin, she started TCCP, very close to them. So, and they'll be at the IIT. So that's another reason I'd really like to go. And I went, I spent some time last year in Minneapolis and St. Paul. There's a TCCP member. TCCP is Trainer Candidate Community Path, and it's a community-based model of assessment. And we have a member in St. Paul, and I grew to really love that area. This person grew up in Wisconsin, and I've been to Menominee and Madison. I've been to family camp several years, so I really like the Midwest. It's very friendly for Canadians. It makes sense to me when I go there. So yeah, and I'm speaking too fast because I'm feeling a little nervous. So um, excited, looking forward to meeting you all. There's been a few questions in the chat. So one was, is the workshop private? And I wonder if that means, is the IIT private? Or is this,
Vanessa says yes. She says yes. Is the IIT private? That's her
yeah,
question.
yeah, the IIT is private. There's a photo policy that you can opt out of. So if you do not want any photos taken of you, you would, there's like, for the first 3 days, we ask no one takes photos. So we create a culture of consent. And then if you do not want your photo taken at any time during the retreat, you can, or if you don't mind that other participants take it for their own purposes, but you don't want it posted on social media, you can fill out a consent form or a waiver or opt-out form. So, and in terms of sound recordings, I don't, in past IITs, people have figured it out on the spot. Like, does anyone object? There are people taking sound recordings for this session. But as soon as there's one person says no, then it's not taken. Or there could be a policy that there are no sound audio recordings. So I'm not, can you say more about that, Eric?
Yeah, thanks. So that's the general policy, exactly as you said, no recordings, no audio recordings. And the idea in nonviolent communication, as I understand it, is to formulate requests and to put one's needs forward. So part of the practice, which we hope people will practice and maybe ask for support for, is like if someone says, I'd really like to record this session with Mika, and if I'm not feeling it, I'm feeling particularly tender or vulnerable, I'm going to say, this isn't going to work for me. I really need to know that this isn't going to be recorded. I'm really attached to a strategy of this not being recorded. I'm feeling tender. I really object to this being recorded. And then putting that out. And if I can't say it directly, then I might reach out to a support trainer or another participant and say, hey, could you just put this up for me? So part of, for me, NVC is making requests. And the other part is the agreement. So I think what'll happen is, and I can't say exactly what's going to happen, but there'll be some form of group agreements that the group will make initially in the entire community of, my guess is we'll have between 40 and 60 people at this one. So it'll be a fairly small event where we will have some form of agreements as to how we are together, and specifically with recording. And the one thing I do want to, and I apologize if this is too long, Mika team, but the one thing I would like to point out is this will be a group of 40 or 50 or 60 people. So when we say private, I really would want to understand what your expectation is in terms of private. This is not, please forgive me if this seems blunt, but for me, this is not therapy. This is a specific practice where we get to practice these skills in community, which means there could be 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 people listening at any one time. And part of the practice for me is to be in community and to find ways to be in community, to support myself, and when I need it, to ask for support from others for whatever that is. So just to remind you again, it is our intent. We have a policy that generally not recorded, and agreements can be made in the group or within small groups for recording or for pictures or videos. Just like if you were out taking pictures of somebody else, you'd say, hey, I'd love to take a picture of you and your puppy right now. You'd ask that question, right? So I hope that answers your question, Vanessa. Did that answer your question, Vanessa, or does anybody have a follow-on? Did I get that right, Mika?
It sounds
a lot
good
of words.
Yeah, no, comprehensive. Okay. Kyle writes in a quick note on recording as a trainer, it usually doesn't create a safe space to share freely. Vulnerability on camera is usually not well received. My question, I understand the NVC framework is used in universal settings. However, would attendees have the opportunity to meet and connect with others in their same industry? I'm in higher education. Yeah, it's open, especially at meal times. If you, there's been people like who say, I work in hospitals, in a hospital setting. I'd love to speak to other people over lunchtime to connect around how you use NVC at work. Or you can invite people to a topic table over mealtime and get to know them that way, and then connect during the course of the 9 days. I think that's a way that people can connect
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
network.
So could I insert something?
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, we love to have requests and offerings. So you can do table topics, which is the anybody can offer anything at any meal, basically. You can say, hey, I want to talk about this session we just had with Mika or with Kathleen or with I just want to continue this conversation. You can offer yoga or movement or breath or meditation before the day starts. And the evenings will actually be participant led. I'm pretty sure this is the case, although I'm not sure that we formally agreed to this. Usually the evenings are participant led. So if you want to hold a specific forum on parenting or higher education or secondary or primary education, you can do that. And then you can also make requests of the trainers potentially to say, I'd really love a special session on this. So you're asked a question if the connection is organic or not built in the curriculum. I would say that the trainers, we are pretty lucky that we have trainers, fortunate that we have trainers that are pretty practiced in nonviolent communication. I personally would say that connection, there'll be exercises and practices that support connection. And I would say that it actually is built into the curriculum to try to get people to connect. And we really want you to be in choice about everything that you do. So if you're not getting your needs met, we hope that you'll put them on the table and you'll approach us, meaning most of any part of the team basically, and try to find a way. And in different IITs, we might have a piece of paper up there that would say requests and the other would be offerings. I'm going to offer a table for this at mealtime. I would like to request a session on parenting at this time. Yeah, I hope that makes sense.
There'll also be a feedback system. So if you're like day 3, wow, my questions are not getting addressed here. My issues that are important to me are I'm not seeing them on the schedule. So this is a place where, yeah, please let us know what your needs are and what you would like to see. We totally welcome the co-creation. And so there will be certain tracks that could be, there'll be some classes that are supporting beginners learning NVC, and then there's a daily theme for all the 9 days. But there is a lot of fluidity. So if you really would like a session on a particular topic, you can put it on the request or approach the trainers or get support to put that request up there. There's a follow-up. Is there a program or curriculum that can be shared so we can get a better sense of what to expect day to day? Yeah, could you speak to that, Eric?
I apologize. I have a very urgent call from my son. He's
okay. All right, I'll take that. Yeah. So, what to expect today? Yeah. So I'm guessing the needs there are for predictability and choice, like to be at informed choice. So that you can plan your days. And it's my experience is that it's been different at IITs because it's organic and fluid, there's a lot of change day to day. So I'll just make a note of that and ask the trainer team how much they're like, would they be willing to share the day before what's going to happen the next day? Or will the first 3 days be planned and then more flexibility on the last? Like, so I'll ask them. I'm not part of the trainer team, but as a support trainer, so that's not something I can answer with certainty right now, but definitely something that I'll ask and let people know that the trainers know there's a request for that. Does anybody want to speak to that question or share more about what they would like to see? I was last year I was a trainer on the team in Vietnam, and that was a recurring request. Like, can we get a heads up about what's happening tomorrow or what we can expect? Like what kind, like some chunks. We know there's in Vietnam we did a beginners track because there was 40% beginners. So that was 4 days of people going to the beginner session so they can get their foundations in NVC. And then the rest of the IIT was open to them, because what had happened in another IIT in Asia was that there wasn't a dedicated beginners track, so people could always pick and choose. But at the end, some of the beginners didn't know how to formulate a request. So in Vietnam, they adjusted it so that people would have the foundations before they could move on and join the rest of the group. Would you paint a picture of how a day would look? Yes, I'd love to do that. But I just want to track back because I think I missed Jackie's question here. What is the role of a support trainer? What if I experience emotional overwhelm internally and want some help? There will be empathy angels, so volunteers that for that day, they'll put some kind of indication on their name tag that they're willing to be very open and willing to be approached. So an empathy angel could sit with you for agreed amount of times. If they have 10 minutes, if they have half an hour, if they could sit with you for a session and do the empathy. There'll also be support trainers, and it's our job to support. So we'll be accessible. Yeah. So the answer to that is yes, if you want some help. Eric?
Yeah, so there'll hopefully be what we call a care system of some form in place. So there'll be the empaths of the day or empathy assistants, which will be volunteers from the community. There's always the option of self-empathy, and hopefully we'll be in community so you can ask those people. You'll also be put into home groups with 2 to 3 other people or 4 other people. And that's meant to be a touch point because it's a large group of people, 40 to 60 people. So at some point during the day, we'll encourage you to meet with your home group, which is 3 to 4 people, and you do an empathy exchange. And our hope is that in addition to your roommate and the people you meet in class, you'll have a home group to come back to each day to process things. That's another component. And then there'll be and then you will, you can approach staff members, support trainers, and probably core trainers as well, also for support. And for me, at least, part of the experience of the IIT is, trying out the self-empathy, but not in the rugged individualism that's like, I have to deal with this all myself, but really to reach out, as you said, Jackie, to find and get a repeated experience of getting some form of being supported. And that for me is part of the practice. Again, not therapy, but the practice of reaching out to someone and hopefully getting heard with warmth and care and sensitivity will be part of it. And because in my experience, everybody's there for this, my hope, you get that experience. Does that answer your question, Jackie? Okay, thumbs up from Jackie. We're good to go. Thank you.
Wonderful. So coming back to Vanessa, would you paint a picture of how a day would look? Sure. So, breakfast. There might be people offering something for early risers, um, a walk or meditation or yoga or something. There could be a volunteer offering before breakfast, but usually breakfast and then a morning meeting where the community um, gets together. There'll be a remembering and logistics and maybe some orientation for the day. And we look at the marketplace. So we look at the schedule and people talk to about their sessions and what's on offer. And then there's lunch and afternoon sessions. And then there's usually a community meeting of celebrations and mornings at the end of the day before dinner. And then in the evening, participants can offer sessions. So it could be someone, yeah, there's always someone who does NBC games or it could be a trainer candidate saying, I want to present this little mini workshop and get people's feedback. Or yeah, so, or just play
Yeah, yeah.
music.
Yeah, so song circles, last time we had someone bring their banjo, another person bring their guitar, a person bring their flute, another person bring their drum. They do that. There's often dancing. There's often dancing at night. There's actually often dancing in the middle of the day, like while you're waiting for us to show up for the closing circle in the afternoon, there'll be like 15 minutes of like just dancing, that kind of thing. But if I can repeat, so breakfast, opening circle, session one, lunch. And then the afternoon, it's a second session with our core trainers, maybe home groups, maybe a break, closing circle, dinner, and then participant led stuff. And it is intensive. So those of you who expect, a packed curriculum, it will be plenty packed. It will be plenty packed in that 8, 9, from breakfast. If you don't want to miss anything, it's going to be so much stuff to do that by day 5, you'll be like, I can't do everything. And then you'll see what happens at that point. You'll probably exercise some choice and say, I don't want to hear any more of Eric's terrible jokes in the closing circle. I'm going to go and take a walk with my good friend, um, Jackie or Teresa or Jay or Ka or Linda or Meng or Quincy or Paul or Vanessa.
Yeah. And there's a half day break. Halfway through, there's a half day break. You get the afternoon off, and nothing. It's not meant to be school. If you don't ever want to go to session number 2, like you can dedicate that to your own rest. And if you
You
find
can
these,
go out to the playground anytime you want. You can leave class and you go play on the playground anytime you want.
yeah, you don't need a permission slip. Yeah, we're all grown-ass adults, so we trust that you'll follow your feet. Any other questions you might have? I guess I want to speak to the intensity. It can be intense, and there's usually FOMO, fear of missing out. In Vietnam, it was the first IIT and there was 96 participants. So there was the intensity of the hugeness of the group. And then because it was the first one, people really didn't want to miss out on the learning and they wanted to find a way to coalesce the learning from each other. So sometimes at meal times, if you couldn't go to one, if you really missed like one of a session and you were split and so you choose to go to session A, but you missed session B, you can ask, hey, anyone from session B want to have lunch with me and tell me what happened? Um, and so you can kind of learn from each other that way. And you can ask a trainer, would you be willing to repeat that one? Because I couldn't make it. And they can say yes or no, but you can definitely ask. Did I hear
Yeah.
you say that seasoned participants are also in this program? Yeah, it's a multi-level it's a range of levels of familiarity and experience.
Yeah. Yeah. What could happen is you'll end up to be an IIT junkie, like some of the people here, and you'll end up going to more than one. In fact, probably someone here has done more than one on this call. So yeah, there you go, Jackie. Jackie's done more than one. So yeah, there'll be several people who are seasoned. Um, yeah, and I imagine actually some of you are more seasoned than you know, and some of you will be brand new, and that's okay. It'll be, hopefully, it'll be. I think that's what gives it its richness, is we all come from these different places.
It really is an experiment in creating temporary community together. And so we'll be coming up with different systems, different agreements, different ways to address needs. And um, you might go, wow, that was a wonderful way to do feedback. I'm going to take it back home and back to my workplace and set up something there. Or you might go, oh, there were so many holes in that system. Now I would just do it so differently. And you could be inspired and create your like it. And if you work in organizations and groups, you can create something at home and consult with people there. How would you do it? Or, okay, this is great in this context, but back in at home in real life, in my everyday life, how would I create this kind of system of care? And so you can pull someone's ear, you can get it could be a whole session. You could ask a trainer for a session on that, especially on going home. Um, there's some like so I sometimes want to run away from groups like, oh, okay, that's enough of the groupie thing. I need to go dissociate now, self-regulate. But also there could be like this, like, oh, I don't want to leave. And here I can turn to so many people for support. And when I go back, I'm just alone in my concrete box. And so there's a whole range of experiences that you might have.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think the beauty is that hopefully by the end of that, everybody will know how to make that request. It's just like, hey, I really want to connect with you. Could we just do a 20-minute call, in 2 days just to see how we're doing, whoever it is, one other person.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think the benefit of this particular one is it's going to be the smallest IIT I've done maybe ever. And so there'll be a chance to meet and know other people. And I hope you tell everybody that so it becomes the biggest IIT I've ever been. But the point is that there should be an opportunity to meet people.
Yeah. Yeah. Paul writes, I wouldn't consider myself seasoned, maybe a little salty, but I was at one IIT and one huge regional in New York. I still consider myself a beginner and enjoy drilling on the fundamentals. So yeah, this is a place to hone skills, practice skills, get deeper insights about things that you've been doing, but now there's a new dimension to them. And hoping that this will be a supportive place where you can connect more dots and just get even more practice at it. The community building part's really interesting to me because we're inviting all these people into one gathering. How are we going to do this? If it's just skills based, there's a school model, which I don't like the school model. I'm done. So I really want to know how do we do NVC in practice with each other and create a community of warmth. Do programs in other countries change since there may be a language addition? Um, in Vietnam, the trainers all spoke English, so there had to be a huge translation team. Um, and the feedback, we had constant feedback. There was lots of people writing on post-it notes, putting it on the wall. So we changed our programming in response to the feedback. And sometimes because the trainers, we didn't speak Vietnamese. So we missed out on a lot, and it was a huge responsibility for the translators to catch everything. And then there was translation assistance, which was amazing when it was such a, um, and there were some people, whose needs didn't get met, but there was such an effort for people to step forward and contribute in different ways. It was very awe-inspiring to me. The organizing team was huge too, because it was the first one. Um, so programs in other countries change. Yeah, and each IIT has a kind of theme or topic or focus. So the sessions that are offered are different in different IITs, depending on who's there.
There is the overarching, it's called the Rosenberg gift, which gives us a theme for each day: self-empathy, honest expression, empathy for the other, social change, um, some other topics which I should probably have memorized by now, but I don't. Anyway, so those topics are universal, but because each trainer is a different human being and each team is different, everyone is different. Our hope, from my experience, having been to somewhere between 4 and 8 of these, I can't remember, is the thing that I hope gets repeated is that sense of being received with warmth and sensitivity, and an experience of care, hopefully. So that seems to, for me, repeat. And the trainers and the support trainers and the team are the ones that kind of enable that through the programming and how we come together and connect. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, and then there's a question there from Vanessa. I wanted to attend one in Spain, but I thought I would get more with an English only program. Is this accurate? What do you think, Mika?
Well, I also I'm a part of, besides NVC, I do co-counseling, reevaluation counseling. And what's been great about that is we do language liberation sessions. And so what I've found is that in translation, if you don't understand the language being translated, your brain gets to rest when there is a translation happening. Like it feels, people might get urgent. Oh no, I'm not catching everything. But when your brain actually rests, when these meaning chunks get delivered and your brain gets to rest in between, it actually, I find, supports integration. So IITs in other languages is really exciting for me because the dominance of the English language is yeah, it's challenge. It's you bring up another language and share airtime, and what that does to our brains, how we've come to view English as maybe there's a lot of uh, uh, privilege in the domination of the English language throughout the world and what it's connected to in terms of colonization. It's quite fun for me to be in another space where another language gets as much airtime as English. So, on the other hand, if you go to a local IIT, then it's more probable that you can form relationships that could last a lifetime, like could be long term, where you have empathy supports. So there's real advantages to going more local and being part of community in your region. So that's how I'd answer that question.
I would
Anything
say,
you?
if I
Yeah.
can throw something in, it's really interesting to hear what you said, Mika, because I've always thought translation was challenging for me because it does provide that spaciousness for integration, and it can also be, and I enjoyed it in Bali. So they translated to Balinese, and I found my experience in doing this in a number of environments is practicing specifically your language, and you'll be able to do that in Spain. Roxy Manning will be one of the trainers in Spain, and I thought about going to that. Honestly, I thought about going to that as well. And practicing in your own language is uh, helps, I think, helps with both expression and reception. So, yeah, if you go to Spain and the sessions are in English, you're probably going to get a ton out of it, and you're going to have one of those anyway. So that's just my thought. Yeah, yeah, and maybe you'll have, if you go to Spain, you'll have couches all over Europe you can visit at some point. So.
That's true. Yeah, you can make friends. And the question, next question, how would you describe the focus of this IIT? I think, yeah, I read the theme on authenticity and belonging.
Yeah. So our theme was building bridges, collaborative living in polarized times through the practice of nonviolent communication. So, yeah, I'm sorry. What would you say generally about? I don't know that I could say anything specific about this, Mika, because for me, every one of them is different, and every one of them relates to the thing we seem to encounter with each IIT.
Yeah, I would say knowing some of the trainers that there will be a focus on group dynamics, like what it takes to create belonging. There will be bringing in a systemic awareness of the forces that separate us, historical, social, the pain of living in systems where most people's needs are not getting met. It won't be I don't think the focus will be on individualized, like we're all individual, what's that word? Atomized individuals, like trying to do our own things. There'll be an awareness of the systems we live in and how do we change them. So I think they are phrasing the theme as broadly as possible, but it won't be it won't be about fixing yourself in a vacuum. I don't know if that's, do you want more details on that? I wasn't I'm not a trainer, I'm a support trainer, so I haven't been part of the discussions on the theme. So maybe going back to some of the videos of the training team would be helpful.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And I wasn't part of the theme development. I'm on the more operational side. So yeah, thanks for asking the question. Why don't you come to the event and find out? That's probably my answer.
I when I went to the family camp in Wisconsin last year, there was a topic on speaking to our relatives who have different political, when there's political differences. And oh man, my heart. I live on the West Coast, which and I live in Canada, so there's not too many people I connect with that have. There's some family members, but it isn't as intense as it is in the US, I could say, if I could give that judgment. So this is part of their consideration of what the political moment is right now in the US. That's part of the trainers, they're longing to contribute to healing and reconciliation and resourcing ourselves at these times. So I believe that will be a focus too, without trying to alienate people or make or work past enemy images or through enemy images to get to the other side.
Yeah. Mika, I was going to ask, is there some, sorry, if this is putting you on the spot, is there some kernel of nonviolent communication that if you could just have a few minutes right now that you'd like to convey to people, some part of NVC that's really been core to your practice that you'd really like someone to know or teach? Is there something you could
Well, I
share?
could say what I'm focusing on right now in my own practice is, when is my request about controlling the environment? And when is my request coming from vulnerability? And not to judge one is, well, um, if I move very quickly to an action request and I want behavior change, um, I wonder if that's meeting my need for self-responsibility. Like, there's nothing wrong with speaking up and asking people to change their behavior. In fact, it could be protective use of force. It's like this, I'm not getting basic needs for respect and dignity met here. And this is, in order for me to keep showing up in this relationship, I need to see some behavior change. I would like to see these kind of different, like a different way of relating to each other, and wonder how you feel about that. So there are times but I ask myself, if I'm rushing to that, if I could maybe pause and do a deeper layer of owning what I'm scared of and revealing that transparently to the person. And sometimes that may be very dangerous. In the workplace, I retired from a trade union office after 25 years. It was not safe to talk about feelings. Like, you could be mad, glad, or you couldn't be sad, but you could be mad or glad. And so in some spaces that isn't, that opening up to that vulnerability might not be safe enough for you. And yet, if you can do it in a way where you're grounded and know your own capacity, your own limits, and you choose to share something, you choose to kind of like clean the dirt off the window to your heart a little bit, so let people in. There's a power in being able to show up in conversations like that. And you actually increase your psychological rank if you're able to own your experience and share it with people without shame. No matter where you are in the hierarchy, the union office was so hierarchical. And yet I tried, my use of NVC increased my individual little sphere of power and influence. So much so that I had a clerical job and people would apologize before they asked me to do something, which is a bit of a power trip. But I tried to introduce, in my own little ways, humanizing, fun, play, warmth, community building where I was, in order, because I had no rank. I was not in a position of power. So I don't know, these are the kind of things that where my brain goes to, like, oh, before I ask that action request, could I have let someone in more to show where my struggle is, to show, yeah, a little bit more of my humanity. And in doing so, I believe it makes it safe for other people to go there. So I don't know, that's where my mind goes. Is that, do you have anybody have any questions around that? Or was that meaningful for anyone? Yeah, and I'm, working in a
Oh,
union
Lisa had
office.
a question.
Oh,
Sorry.
sure. Mhm.
Hi. So my question, you had said something, you said, I was taking notes, and so you said, when is my request coming from blank and when is my request coming from vulnerability? What was the first statement you said?
A desire to control the environment. And I don't want to like make that wrong. Sometimes we need to have high threshold requests about the environment, how we're being treated. Um,
Yeah,
but
I didn't take it as wrong. I just wanted to write it down because I think I lean towards that one. And so,
oh,
yeah, it'll
yeah,
be something to observe. Thank you.
yeah. In me, it shows up as an avoidance strategy. I don't want to hit that really deep and tender spot, so I'll just ask the other person to change. or before I ask for behavior change, what can I share of myself? So yeah, that might humanize or help us connect more on a human level. Yeah, and that's tricky in terms of your social location. Like we don't, if you like, so say in that union office, the receptionist is the lowest in the power structure. So for that person to be open and vulnerable about their emotional truth, that could incur a lot of, it could even be punishment. Um, so we need to judge how, it's always a choice, how much to be vulnerable and why. And if we, if we're activists that speak up all the time for changes in the system, people who speak up often get targeted because they're introducing new information. Conflict. I love Dominic Barter's definition of conflict is when new information gets introduced into a system that's hard to integrate. So if you're speaking up for rights, if you're speaking up for change, or you're just speaking up saying this does not work for me and it doesn't work for the people I'm connected to, if you're the first to bring in this new information to a power structure that doesn't want to hear it, then you could be targeted and discredited and all kinds of things. I brought up racism in my union office because I had pension, you see. I did enough years that I could have a pension. So I was not, I had some, uh, my friend, my friend's mom used to talk about Humphrey Bogart having FU money. So I had qualified for my pension, so I had protection, and so I raised issues around racism in the union office. And then they tried to discredit me. They hired lawyers, and they were going to say that my behavior was erratic and create this label and labels in this punitive system, right? Like that's how jackals and our labeling is violent because then it creates a story that you're wrong and punishable and deserve punishment. So before, and I heard this word erratic. I thought, oh, people don't say that word in this office. They must have got it from a lawyer, and I was able to just take my pension and go. So, anyways, choosing your level of vulnerability is getting support from people before you discern for yourself how vulnerable you want to be. Um, that'll be skills too that we practice. Also, another skill that's really that I'd love to see more of in NVC is we can have empathy for the person that's most reactive or the one in power. If they're reacting, we can support them with empathy. We can come back, we can hold them, we can work on that relationship and build trust. But how do you then turn the conversation back, like get them to circle back to you or turn the conversation so that you can now, okay, I've done my best to hold you. Do you feel satisfied? Do you feel held? I've done my best to hear you. Do you feel heard? Checking in about that. Now, do you have any space are you curious to know what's coming up for me? And so circling that back so that you can dog for your needs, so that you can speak up about your truth. That's a skill I would like to people to practice more of. Because it's often people get overwhelmed because if we're in a position of power down, we're catering to or we're having to hold the needs of the one with more power, but trying to equalize that or insert your own humanity into that equation, that's a place where there could be more, I believe everyone could practice.
Yeah, there's a question there. Yeah, do you teach this empathy with healthy boundaries in order to not be taken advantage of in workplace or personal relationships?
Yeah, I love this. I don't know, it's a NVC truism. I don't know who said it, but that empathy is massage and honesty is chiropractic. Like, so, So if we just focus on empathy, then the tree of life can topple over, because the self-empathy is the top root and the other branch is honest expression. So being honest, like, I'm kind of there's a pattern in our relationship I'm noticing. I'm noticing that I tend to listen more than I speak. And do you notice that? And kind of getting some checking in about the observation level there. And frankly, I'm getting kind of tired, or I'm despairing. I'm not sure if not losing trust that I will get heard in this relationship. So speaking up about it uh, is vitally important. I've had many friendships where I kind of just tolerated it and then blew up, or tolerated it and walked away, but I didn't get enough support or awareness to be able to say, actually, this pattern's not working for me. I'd love to discuss if we can do something different. And usually there was a reaction from the other person. And I thought, oh, this isn't worth it, walked away. So this is a place to practice our honesty, to get more empathy and self-empathy, so that we can show up with more presence and realness with people, and open the door and invite them to collaborate with us. And can we make this different so that both our needs are getting met? I don't know does that answer your question, Vanessa? Oh, there's a
Thumbs up.
hand.
Yeah. No, I like what you said about at some point just asking in any relationship, whether it's a boss or a partner or even your child, say, hey, I'm just wondering, is there space? Is there space? I'm worried that maybe, I really would like for my feelings to matter. And I'm wondering if it's important to you. And it's not meant to be in a blaming way. It's meant to be in like, I'm genuinely like, I'm suffering a little bit here and I'd really like to know. And knowing that energy actually goes back to your original question. Is this a control question or a vulnerability question? When I say it, and it's okay to have a little bit of control in there. It's just the point is that am I coming more from vulnerability? And for me, I hope that makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you, Mika, for bringing that around.
Oh, welcome.
I should take notes, man. What the heck?
We'll just play with this when we're together. Well, there'll be dialogue skills practice for sure.
Yeah. I just want to check the time. Oh, we still have 20 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions about the IIT or about NVC?
I like that you've been putting things into the chat that you're interested in for this one. Is there anything you're hoping to get out of the IIT? The topics you want to cover? You want to know about the food?
I had something to say to follow up the point that was being made. Uh, the some people, as soon as you start talking about your feelings, mention any feeling other than like maybe anger or joy, um, they just kind of turn off because they don't want to deal with it. I just in And you've probably found this as well, and I find that in those cases it's better to focus directly on the needs because it's easier. If people who are uncomfortable with emotions tend to be more comfortable dealing just with needs, and it's easier to connect to them that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a lot of empathy for people who are really scared about emotions. People have been met with violence for expressing emotions. So like a trigger warning, how many generations have been beaten for expressing emotions? How many in in our roles and expectations, gender roles, like how many, if it hasn't been a father or a grandfather, like how many generations have been free of violence from being and allowed and invited and warmly invited to express emotions. Like it's the legacy of violence is the traumas in people's bodies. So if they can't go there, because it was never safe, if they were punished for crying, or if they were punished, exiled for being angry, it's really been unsafe in many generations of families. And so, yes, going to needs. So in the union office, when I take members' calls, I would say, okay, so what I'm getting is this, it's about family, and it's about, and then the principle of the thing. You are naming the need and people calmed because you are curious and trying to relate to their humanness. So, okay, so what you're talking here is about basic respect. Is that it? And so naming the needs in that way, not because if you go to the feeling, if you go to the feelings, if you evoke feelings or inquire about them, it can be very threatening because it can also bring up power structures, like who is asking the questions and who is expected to answer. So you could have a teacher not revealing anything about their emotional truth, but then inquiring about a young person's emotional truth, very unsafe and not equal. So the person in the power under position is expected to reveal vulnerability where the inquirer doesn't. Like that can be very police asking questions, people being interrogated, having to answer. So there's there's been lots more in NVC, lots more talk about consent before giving empathy around feelings, and more resistance to people asking even about needs, just culturally in this last 10 years. Like, whoa, you're in my space asking me about my internal experience. Who gave you permission to do that? I didn't sign up for this. And if you just come in and if you don't ask for consent, like if you just come in with an empathy guess without consent, it can people can have really strong reactions to it because it's personal space.
Yeah, they're uncomfortable with it, and they've never been taught to be comfortable to how to handle it. I think that's probably happening.
It hasn't been safe. If you admit a feeling, you could get punished for it.
Yeah.
And then what does that say? We don't allow people to have feelings because we don't want them to express their requests coming from needs. That's where I go, my brain goes. If we tamp down on the feelings, then we'll suppress resistance.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ka. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Con. There's another chat, sort of just to state something from Vanessa. I am hoping to identify my needs and the other person needs to achieve a common goal or progress. I am also hoping to learn to see when a person is closed in order to see how I need to proceed.
Yeah. It's such a fine art. There's so much, and when Eric talks about sensitivity, it's tricky because, let's see, hoping to identify my needs and the other person's needs. So you can be transparent about your goal, what you're trying to do. Is like, okay, this conversation might be feeling kind of intense or heated for you, and I just want to share what my intention is here, and then ask you if you're okay with it, and then reveal that I have a trust that if I can know what's important to you and you could hear what's important to me, then maybe we could put our heads together and come up with a plan. If you're transparent about your goal, and then asking if they're on board, then you inspire, build more trust than if you just go in with your agenda and, well, your needs and my needs, like without opening it up for consent. That could be experienced as a violence. So yeah, just encouraging you to share, and then where you're coming from and what you're wanting to do. And hoping to learn to see when a person is closed. So especially with adults and children, like a child shutting down, noticing the signs. Maybe mentioning, oh, I'm noticing I'm doing a lot of the talking, and or I'm noticing this body language, and I wonder if you really need space, or making a guess. Or if they're not able to talk, say, well, I haven't heard from you, and I'm guessing that's really hard right now, or you just don't want to. So what I'm going to do is give you some space and check back, and just be a bit like, and when you want to talk about this again, you can come to me. I won't push it. So coming up with like a proposal. How do we want to continue this conversation? I'm not sure if that was clear enough around that. It is tricky, and where we shut down, noticing our cues when we shut down. And in a couple, it could be that someone shuts down, does more of the shutting down, and someone does more of the pursuing. So this can be very, very important on noticing these signs, so that you can giving language to the shutting down process. And then coming up with agreements that when one of us shuts down, what shall we do? And talking about it beforehand. Because the other one, if the one doing the pursuing is faced with someone shutting down, they might go and pursue more. Like, oh my goodness, I can see the doors closing. I really need to get in there so we can stay connected, or else I'm going to get destabilized. And so this urgency might make the one who's shutting down going, ah, and even shut and close the doors even more. Like, it's a tragic formula. So speaking about the dynamic and coming up with agreements and trying them out, trying it for a week and then checking in. And those are CNVC skills that we can learn.
And there's a question there. Do you help to identify manipulation? I think there are many scenarios. That was a good example. Thank you.
Yeah, manipulation. What is it? The bullshit detector. Speaking honestly, I can't put my finger on it, but I have a sense that you have an agenda. You would like me to do something for you. And then kind of like flushing it out, like you're getting it into the open. Like, can they own that they're trying to do something? They have an agenda that they can you get them to be more transparent? Ask for transparency about, is it that you have an agenda for our interaction here? Or is it that you're really, really invested in me doing this for you? And then investigating why. That would be a way to look at the behavior that's causing upset for you and inviting some curiosity into it. But yeah, manipulation can be subtle, because even me being really goofy at work and making my coworkers laugh and trying to shift the culture in the workplace. Like, at one point, me and this other clerical worker, we were doing square dancing on our office chairs. We were just being super goofy because I wanted to disrupt the heaviness of the workplace. So was that my manipulation? Probably. Yeah, this is fun. It's a fun topic. Maybe I'll develop some curriculum around this. Yeah.
Okay. We're just coming to the end of our time. Mika, how should we close out today?
I feel I'm feeling a little sad because I've done a lot of the talking. And there's these human beings I've spent the last hour with, and I would have loved to have gotten to know you more. So there's some regret in mourning about the setup and missed opportunity to learn more about you. So yeah, I hope to, if you're coming to the IIT, to get to know you more. And yeah, how shall we close? Any needs that were met or that you would like? Any needs that got met from this exchange or this last hour, or any needs that are up for you right now that you want to sit with? How's that for closing? And you could speak out loud or put it into the chat.
I appreciate your sharing and your honesty, Mika, and your sense of humor. It was fun to hear you laugh a lot.
Thanks so much, Jackie.
So I guess my need for comfort, I feel very comfortable with you. My need for comfort and reassurance or maybe connection.
Oh,
Yeah, we're met. Thank you. And Eric, thank you as usual for keeping everything tied together.
Thanks, Jackie.
So that's my need for predictability, I think.
Predictable bad jokes. I got you.
Yeah, exactly. Sense of humor.
And I'm gonna say, like, for me, it's like, Eric, when you show up like this, it's trust that in the depths of care, that you show up when you say you're going to show up. You propose these sessions in the building community, so you're holding that, and there's a heart there that I feel safe and excited about. Yeah, let's do community. Let's do this together.
Yeah.
It's a play.
Thanks. Certainly my needs for being seen are being met right now. So I do want to say something transparently. I've been looking down because I have this stain on my shirt. And I was thinking, did I cut myself really badly? And I had to think about it. I had chocolate raspberry cake last night. And I carried some home in a foil pouch, and it was, when I got back, it was open, and I was like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't get it on my jacket. But now I know where it ended up. It ended up on my shirt. So it's just
since I retired. Oh wow.
But that's a
Yeah,
a decent amount.
That would
That's
be
a lot of
a
cake.
bit alarming
It's like,
if you don't know
what is
the
that? It's like, I'm not, what is happening there?
Yeah.
But my brain, I couldn't figure out what was happening. It was like, where did this come from? Oh yeah, cake, chocolate cake.
One reason why I like being a support trainer is I don't have to come in work clothes, because mostly I wear, like, since being retired, I wear t-shirts with the food stains on them.
That's great.
I wanted to share some needs that were met for me were learning and connecting. Well, I guess I didn't talk, but just seeing the community, feeling connected. And also, if you saw me looking down a lot, it's because my cat Bugs is on my lap. So I guess also my need for comfort and rest.
Oh, sweet. Oh, thank you, Jay.
Okay. Well, I'd love for you all to just unmute and just make some noise for our friend Mika. And if you have any questions, remember, invite your friends. We still would love to get another 20 to 30 people to come. But if you want to keep it small, don't tell anyone. If you don't want the world to change, don't tell anyone. But if you do want the world to change, tell a few people, okay? Go ahead and unmute, say goodbye. I appreciate you all being here. Mika, thank you so much. It is such
Thank you, Mika.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah, looking forward to being with you.